Так что и вы тоже представьтесь, хорошо? Hello, everyone. We're back. It's Saturday morning from Vienna, Austria. We have a special guest today, everybody. I really messed up the beginning because I'm so excited that Anna's with us today.
Hello, everyone.
So this is Anna. Some of you will know her already. We are celebrating on the older calendar the great feast of the baptism of the Lord, also known as Theophany. And Anna came over. We had brought over from church the holy water. People fill bottles, in case you don't know, because we celebrate the baptism of the Lord. And also we have the great blessing of the waters on this day. So the faithful take bottles of water with them to the church and get their bottles filled up. Anna is confirming that is indeed so.
True story.
And Ron McBride is with us. Well, there's one brave soul talking to us today. I realize that it's really morning for many of you who usually come to this show. And if you are older calendar, then you're not here because you're in church on a great feast like this one. But for us, it happens to be when we air this live. That's why we do it at this time, by the way. It's in between the services of today. Okay, but it is a busy kind of weekend liturgically. And I say a happy Theophany to you if you're celebrating. So who is with us now? I see Famicom Mike. Are you new to this, Famicom Mike? Hello to you. Good morning and happy Theophany, he's saying. Lynn Tomlinson, our old friend, is here. Good morning, Sister Vassa and Anna.
Hey, happy feast.
I do have to say that off camera, we do have Juliet with us, but she's camera shy, as you people already know. But we're happy to have her here as well. I do want to say a few words to you, my friends, about baptism in general and the Lord's baptisms, because he doesn't have just one, as specifically. But I do want to say hello to you, and I do want to keep this short today because it is this great feast day. So Ami's with us. Hello, Ami, known as Andis Taxis here. And Josh is with us. Julie Lucky, how could I have missed you? Hello. Hello, and hello to Josh. And who else? Famicom Mike is saying, I'm from South Florida. Greetings from the U.S. All right, good to know where you're from, Famicom. Joshua Hale is saying, Blessed Epiphany, Sister and Anna, much love from California. Thanks, Joshua Hale. Anna's waving at everybody, right? Anna's adorable. Cynthia's here from California. Hello, Cynthia. S.A. is with us. Blessed Feast Day. Thank you, S.A. Ron McBride is saying something to Lynn. Well, you guys just talk to each other there then. Leave us out of it. Be that way. Ron McBride. Wait, sorry, I can't keep up now. We're getting lots of comments. Michelle Kochov-Platt. Good morning, Michelle. I'm actually jumping, says Famicom Mike, from the Roman Catholic Church to the Coptic Orthodox Church. Oh, are you? All right, Famicom Mike. Kelly Johnson is saying good morning. Andrew Carres. Hello, Sister Vassa from Charlotte, North Carolina. Oh, you're from Charlotte. Good to see you, Andrew. Lynn Tomlinson says, I think Anna missed us.
Just an epic mug.
Anna's big. See, she's all silly and happy today. That's Anna for you. She's incurably happy. Chris Walters. Hello, Sister Vassa. Chris here from the Netherlands. Hello, Chris from the Netherlands. Do I know you already? I don't know if I do, but it's good to see you, Chris. Lana Sains. Hello, Lana Sains. I'm sorry, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. Good morning. So glad I found the live stream. Missed the last 2 weeks, but enjoying your teaching on Patreon. Oh, thanks, Lana. So, speaking of Patreon, I feel like everything's in disarray today, actually. Speaking of Patreon, we do have interesting topics coming up again and again. Why? Because we're on this adventure now of the all-new course on the Church Fathers. That's just a new theme that I'm weaving into the audio podcasts. And this past week, I did the fourth talk. We're going through, the Apostolic Fathers first. That's the way one does it in patristic, the so-called Apostolic Fathers. This is just one of the English translation that I would be used to of Lightfoot. But anyway, and we did this week the earliest work as far as the fathers of this group go, St. Clement of Rome's first epistle to the Corinthians. Now, as exciting as that sounds, it's even more exciting when you read it. Right? It sounds like a scream, but no, it is very interesting, and a lot of interesting topics come up also for the church life of today. But I can't tell you about it yet because I realize now that I promised to say at least a little bit about our Lord's baptism. So you see, we do have this beautiful icon up in between Anna and myself. We had to think a lot, the production team here, about how we're going to do this technically, since we're a little bit technically challenged. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Probably not, right? We hide it so well. We just hide it so well. Anyway, just briefly, because it's the great feast of the Lord's baptism, I would like to say, as I said in today's daily reflection, let's take this down, the beautiful Theophany icon, and we do have a quote. Everybody, we have a quote. We notice that in this chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 3, we learn about different baptisms. John the Baptist says, "I baptize you with water for repentance, but he who is coming after me is mightier than I, whose sandals I am not worthy to carry. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and with fire." So there's a differentiation of baptisms, and the Lord himself, you might remember, and in a response he gives to James and John, who had been looking to secure themselves special positions in the future kingdom of their teacher, he says to them, if you remember this, he says, "Are you able to drink the cup of which I am to drink and to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" So he's referring to the baptism of his death and resurrection. See, baptism means immersion, right? So our baptism is indeed a participation in that immersion of our Lord in death and also physically in the earth when he's buried. And when we emerge from the waters of baptism, we're supposed to be baptized by full immersion, although in various church traditions that's been modified to sprinkling. But the meaning of baptism being immersion, we see this, this mysterious way of God, the way God wields certain symbols. And he has the true God, speaks throughout salvation history, one might notice, with common symbols. One of them being this, that immersion ends up being life-giving. Different kinds of immersion. I'm going to make this a little bit purposefully incoherent, everybody. It's a studied incoherence. I just made that up so that I have an excuse for being incoherent today. So we see that not only does the Lord immerse himself into that which was for us previously both dangerous and scary and full of problems and even of a curse, because the ground itself was cursed at the end of Genesis 3. The human being was never cursed for the fall, but God says at the end of Genesis 3, when he's talking about the consequences of this fall, that the ground will be cursed. So the Lord immerses into that which, into our, first of all, in his incarnation, he immerses himself into our material world, into all our physicality, and is indeed baptized. Okay? Now, the symbolic significance of baptism, everybody, is not washing. It's not primarily about being cleaned. It's about much more. It's about being born again. It's about dying in Christ, dying his death, and emerging again to new life. So, do you notice, everybody, that also biologically birth is an immersion from what was previously our being immersed as little babies in our mother's womb, where we were in liquid, right? And we are born, we emerge in our biological birth from that being surrounded by liquid. Sometimes it is said that this is why it's very also, consoling for us if you're really down to take a warm bath. It somehow soothes the soul because you feel like, if you're not in the fetal position under your desk or something, that doesn't help much, does it? No. Anna's like, I had to learn that the hard way. It doesn't really help. But taking a bath feels a little bit like being, all safe in your mother's womb again. But God chooses this to enter into this reality of ours and to turn it around for us and to make it in him sanctified. So he does sanctify the waters of our life. He also reveals himself as being that triune God, the true God that speaks the same language throughout salvation history on different occasions in different ways, right? So the fact that he sends us the forerunner, yes, one of us, right? John the forerunner, John the Baptist, is a human being, but he is a precursor of what God is doing for this, what was previously the waters of our life. Because, see, this is the same God who, throughout salvation history, has been doing things with water, even including the River Jordan. Okay, there are prophecies attached, and the prophet Elisa, actually, with the cloak of the prophet Elijah, who has just ascended in a flaming chariot into heaven, he divides the waters of the Jordan and crosses them. Does everybody remember a similar act of God of dividing waters in Exodus, when the people of God, the chosen people under the leadership of Moses, who prays and the waters are divided? See, that has always been considered in church exegesis as one of the symbols of holy baptism, which was to come. The completion of God's work that he's transforming for us, that which we have misused, that's our material world, and made it sanctified for us again, made it holy and salvific for us. We see that God is, throughout the ages, even before the sending to us of his Son, in various ways showing us that he is the same God who's preparing us for the culmination of this salvific work of his. So there's also the incident where in the wilderness, Moses makes previously bitter waters drinkable for the people, okay? The waters of Mara. And much later, when John the Baptist is baptizing us with water for repentance, he's also taking part in this thing that God is doing to make life itself, because water, without which we can't live, right, is a symbol of life. So everything God is doing with water, he's fixing for us our life and our how we have misused it. Okay, he's bringing us new life, but also that which is necessary for us for our sustenance, also biologically, like water, we have misused, and Christ comes into that reality and and transfigures it for us in His grace, right? So you see, we're not devoid of grace before Christ comes into our life. Nothing could live without the spark or the breath of the Creator, right? So, but instead of the previous grace, right? Instead of the previous grace, everybody, of simply existing biologically, and you could put simply in quotations because it is no small gift, the coming of Christ and rebirth in Him is the fullness of grace. This is what is meant by uh, all of us receiving grace for grace, or grace instead of grace, as it is said, one second, as the evangelist John, where do I have this quote, Juliet? Quote 2. All right. So this one we remove and we get quote 2 grace. That's what it's called. So, and in the famous, beginning of the gospel according to John, and of His fullness we have all received, and grace instead of or for grace. Okay, harinandi haritos, right? I благодать возблагодать. Always a perplexing phrase in the Slavonic, right? For the law, so we had other kind of grace, as St. John Chrysostom explains this passage in John 1:16. He says, what grace instead of what grace? He says, the new instead of the old. All right? For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. I recently reflected on this and got some grief for it because I was making the point that we do find helpful, say, rules, say self-help rules, right? That are not devoid of grace. We have helpful also outside the church, right? We have helpful phenomena, and I took the example of self-help books and authors, and I specifically named, wait for it, everybody, because you're going to, probably half of the people will be mad at me for mentioning the name. At least this is what I have found to be true because of our very polarized internet culture. But anyway, maybe not you, my friends, but I mentioned Jordan Peterson, yes, the very famous now clinical psychologist and professor of the University of Toronto, who has really attracted a great following, right, of people who find his book. I have it here, actually. I've been reading it, my friends. I'm going to defend my right to read this book before anybody gets mad at me. Can you see it? Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. All right. My brother told me about it. He was reading it, as apparently not only men are reading it, but apparently it's mostly men, but women as well. It happens to be the #1 best-selling book, not only, say in Canada where he's from, Jordan Peterson, but in the world right now. So if you are, engaged in some form of mission or, sharing the Christ in our day, and to not know about this, I think is a little bit perhaps even irresponsible because of its impact. And you might want to ask yourself why it has a great impact, because, because somehow this person has been heard by so many. And so you would want to know about it and perhaps learn if there's something good there, and not immediately discount, or take the word of, say, tertiary or secondary sources about what this person is saying. It's something we're also repeating a lot in our Church Fathers course, that it's good to go to the sources and to read them yourselves rather than, you can make an educated decision about certain sources, why not, right? Unless you're uneducated. Mm. So anyway, there was a little bit of controversy about that this week, and I noticed, just because we happen to be doing this church fathers course, that it's the ancient church tradition actually is a lot less sensitive than we are today to, to immediately to feeling contaminated by any of the wrong of both the good guys and the bad guys of church history. There is an openness to taking the good from certain writers, and sometimes to quote, pagan sources, even, and the great fathers would receive educations in pagan schools. Certainly true about, Basil the Great, Gregory the theologian, his friend. They go to school at the famous pagan school in Athens and so forth. But more specifically about what we were reading in Clement of Rome, of the late first century, and his epistle to the Corinthians from the year AD 96, is, some of you do encounter sometimes in the fathers as well something that's not exactly orthodox. For example, in this famous epistle of Clement of Rome, we find that he shares with, the Corinthians, as if it's a true story, the pagan myth about the bird, the phoenix, the one that every 500 years regenerates. And wait a second, we have, see, I think that's the Walt Disney version of this mythological bird. So what Clement does, actually, there are different versions of this story about the phoenix emerging from flames. That's not the version of the story we hear from Clement, but he does give us basically the version of, as far as I can see, of Herodotus from the 5th century BC, about this bird and going from Arabia over to Egypt and bringing, its parents' decomposed remains over there, and that there's only one bird like this in the world, and it does this every 500 years. But he does, okay, so there's nothing to suggest that he understands that this is a myth. No, he says it like it really happens. He says this is the way one of the ways in which God manifests to us the resurrection. He says, we see that he shows to us, even by a bird, the magnificence of his promise. This Clement writes. So the point I'm driving at is that wasn't, that one could say, mistaken notion that that's a true story. It is indeed a myth. But the church doesn't decide that that's a deal breaker as far as the status goes of this church father, right? Nor did it stop ancient Christians, right, also in the context of liturgy, from reading this epistle as one does the epistles of St. Paul today. So my point is, there could be mistaken notions. Is my point to say that Jordan Peterson is like a church father? No. I'm sure nobody out there thought that, right, Anna? Mm-hmm. Anna's just like, when am I getting out of here? My point is that the sensitivity that we all know about, that we have with reading any sources, right, or quoting anybody that we do not entirely agree with, but that obviously does have some useful knowledge, right? There are experts out there, and say somebody like a Jordan Peterson is not any dummy, and you can, of course, disagree and discern and so forth, and like with self-help programs, you know that the fullness of grace and truth in any event is communion with Christ, and you carefully see, if you need to do that, is there, as far as somebody like this talks about Christianity, which does fascinate me. You know that I've often quoted Carl Jung. In fact, Jordan Peterson is a big Jung fan, right? But I find both of them interesting for the same reasons. But do I think that it is theologically sound, the underlying understanding of God in these writers? No, I absolutely do not. I'll talk more with you, about this perhaps next week when I finish the book. But I definitely, I find the use of Christian stories or biblical stories as archetypes, as something that we have created, or were able to create also, due mainly for, well, almost, as far as I can see, for naturalistic reasons, that we have uh, evolved. We have evolved enough to see what is good for us, and the biblical myths, as Jordan Peterson will put it, like he'll talk about the myth of the flood and so forth. Interesting also example with water. We gather when we read these authors, the ones that I have mentioned, the great psychologists of today, and along the lines of Jung, very subtly, that God is not a real living being and a person calling us to communion with him, but that he's a good idea that is helpful for us, that can work for us, can serve us well to make our plight here a bit less miserable, and to help us sit up straight and so forth, and to take responsibility and to lead more healthy lives here. That's what I get out of it. And I think that is a reversal, that we are called to serve God, not the other way around. And we don't believe in God because he's a good idea. We believe in God because of the compelling power of his call and the evidence in our lives, time and again, of his being. And this assurance or conviction of things unseen that faith is all about a personal, yes, there is a personal relationship going on. I know somebody will say that sounds very Protestant of you, sister. We don't talk about personal relationship. But what we are talking about is communion, okay? Communion. And there are consequences that we do perceive on a very deep level, on a very real level, of being cut off, of our own volition, of course, from that creative flow of energies that is grace coming from the Creator. It's his way of being with us, his way of connection with us. So one can name another example. Not only are the good guys in church history, as far as the fathers go, sometimes, not entirely, correct about things, but sometimes the bad guys, if I could mention somebody from the Alexandrian church, Theophilus of Alexandria. I don't know how sensitive the Coptic listeners will be if we have one with us today. But see, Theophilus of Alexandria, today, by the way, the New Calendar people out there, I forgot to mention, are celebrating. I should take the phoenix down. All right. we are New Calendar people are celebrating the great fathers of Alexandria, Athanasius and Kirill, or Cyril, today. So happy day of the Alexandrian fathers.
Mhm.
We're not celebrating, everybody in the Orthodox Church, Theophilus of Alexandria. Now, according to uh, Orthodox Church history, um, he's a bad guy. He's the uncle of Cyril of Alexandria, right? He was indeed the Pope of Alexandria, or Bishop of Alexandria. Also has the title of Pope, by the way. Fun fact, in case somebody didn't know that. But see, Theophilus of Alexandria was largely responsible for the persecution and banishment of St. John Chrysostom. We have a picture of Theophilus of Alexandria, right? But here's the fun fact. Oh my goodness, that looks really awkward in between us. But anyway, this was a picture that we found. Apparently, one of these little miniature illustrations on a manuscript, Theophilus of Alexandria. But he's not a saint in the Orthodox Church, and he really hated Saint John Chrysostom, and really, really did, very bad things to that great father. There's also in one of the Synaxaria, or calendars of the saints, even a commemoration. See, there was a story of Theophilus of Alexandria, even persecuting certain monks that lived in the wilderness. And there is, in one of the manuscripts, if you study the various church calendars, we find on the 10th of July, the commemoration, for example, I have this from, I have noted this in Russian actually, but it's in connection with my studies of the holy canons of Theophilus of Alexandria. Because despite him, anyway, I'll tell you the funnest fact of all of this that I'm telling you about is that in our canonical codex, we have 14 canons still in full force in the Orthodox Church of this Theophilus of Alexandria, despite the fact that he's not a saint and that he's not even considered a good guy. So he's on the 10th of July, we have the commemoration of 10,000 desert dwellers of Skete who were by Theophilus, the patriarch of Alexandria, put to death by fire and smoke. That's my clumsy translation. He's considered responsible for the death of holy desert dwellers, in fact, 10,000 of them. But nonetheless, the church is so not sensitive to the bad PR, right, that might come from having canons from this guy, that because he was indeed a legitimate representative, here I have Greek and Slavonic, publication parallel of the canons of Theophilus of Alexandria and of Holy Fathers and Apostles. That's this volume. Anyway, is all of the holy canons of fathers. But is this a holy father, Theophilus? So what's my point? He is considered, nonetheless, he was a canonical bishop of Alexandria and considered a legitimate representative, an authoritative representative and knower of the tradition of Alexandria. And he was trusted to, as far as this church legislation goes, to have known what he was talking about. I don't know how much that troubles us today, or doesn't, right? But I'm pointing out that there is a breadth of, I would say, tolerance, even though I really don't like that word, but usually what people mean by it perhaps is relevant here, to Orthodox phronima, or way of thinking and approach to things. We don't feel that we're contaminated by taking what we consider in tradition to be good and helpful from someone that we don't like for specific other reasons. At least That's what Orthodox tradition has done, does not recognize him by any means as one amongst the saints, but uses some of his work. So, was that a good story, everybody? I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm just presuming that, right? All right. I have to cut this short, probably, as if that was short. No, I don't know that Jordan Peterson is the member of a church, but I think he does. I think he says a lot of helpful things. Who asked me that question? John Laodicean. Right. No, I don't know that I would highly doubt. In fact, if you saw him on Bill Maher, um, perhaps I wasn't very surprised to see Bill Maher just fawning over him. Bill Maher's like, I'm a great fan. He loves Jordan Peterson. So if you watch that, maybe you'll also note some things. But I don't think one has to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I like a lot of things that Jordan Peterson says, and I don't like this polarization that's unsustainable that we've gotten into. You have to take the full package of like one group of people's, heroes and sort of labels and ways of, issues also. You have to care about the same things. Well, if you're a thinking person, that's not the way you think, and you're not that predictable. You might think one way, along a certain, I don't know if you want to be classified in a certain party, but you might not think all of the things that one, say, political party thinks. You might think, I don't know, I don't want to get into it too much, politically, but I think people are increasingly becoming tired of the bullying from both sides, either of people on the left or people on the right. It's like, come to your own conclusions and think issue by issue, and not, is this like, where does this issue fall on the political spectrum? And am I supposed to care about it, or am I supposed to think about it this way or that way in order to be loyal sort of to my party? Well, that's too, first of all, simplistic, because issues are complicated, and if you can think in shades other than black and white, and you see the shades of gray because you think about things, well, then you're not going to be confined into that ready-made package, of what we call right and left today. You might be a little bit of both, or a mixture, somewhere closer to the middle on things. And I certainly see that Orthodox tradition really could not be classified along those lines. It's unpredictable. Our Lord Jesus Christ is certainly unpredictable in his responses. Whoever expected him to say what he said about giving unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's? Those who asked him that thought there was no way he could get out of that one without, antagonizing somebody. But he seems to, sort of be in the middle on that, even though the question probably creates a lot more challenges than answers for church history. But that's our unpredictable Lord, who does challenge us. He trusts us to take responsibility for his challenges, right? Of his challenges. So, everybody, before I say goodbye, let me say hello.
Good.
That should be we should have a jingle. So do we need to have Theophilus here right in between us, Anna?
Yeah, I would probably hide him.
We had both the River Jordan and the Jordan Peterson here. Everybody pictures, ha ha ha. See, the Jordan is the topic of the day, a little bit. What other Jordan can I think of? Wait, what am I doing? Oh.
Behind here.
Wait, where? What is this? This is Theophilus.
This is
Oh, there he is. Okay,
yes.
okay. All right, everybody. Sorry about this. Oh, you know what I have to tell you? we have a new book. Yay! It's a little book. We're calling it the mini book. It's an accessory to any outfit, preferably a black one. All right. You want a splash of color? Carry this around. It's a book of Lenten reflections. Don't be predictable. Dare to have a little color. All right. Look at this. With yellow writing, Lent with Sister Vassa. Lent is not that far away, my friends, right? Before you know it, you're going to need something to read. Just a little bit, right? And you can take it with you. Stick it in your purse or have it stick out of your purse for people to notice it. It's just one little reflection a day for every single day of Lent. Also, preparatory days of Lent and a whole week after Lent known as Bright Week. All right? So, hurry while supplies last because this little book is selling like hotcakes. All right? I believe we've sold, I don't even know how many, but I have to check with our bookkeeper. The keeper of these books, everybody, is our bookkeeper. So, do get one. Where can you get the coveted book, everybody? At our gift shop. What is it called? Right, I was going to say gift site. Get it here, everybody, while supplies last. It is a book of Lenten reflections. Lent with Sister Vassa. Reflections for every day of Lent by Sister Vassa Laren. There's a picture of me on the back. I'm going to pretend it wasn't my idea. Chris Walters is saying, hello, Sister Vassa. Chris here from the Netherlands. Did I already say hello to him?
Yeah.
I already said hello to Chris. Sorry, everybody. Meanwhile, they're like, she's saying hello to Chris like 3 times and not a single time to me. Kelly Johnson from Chapel Hill, North Carolina is with us. Hello, Kelly. And, so Lana Signs is telling us it's pronounced signs. But you can say it any way you'd like, she says. All right. Lana Signs. Okay, I'll really try to remember that. Lana Signs. Vicky Nicole is saying so true. Now, I'll just presume you mean everything. I just said.
I would say so.
I'll take it. Fashionably late, says Bob Krivanis. Good morning, Sister Vassa and Anna. Hello, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
And Juliet's here too, but she's being camera shy. My head thing is slipping today all day. That wasn't an elegant thing to do or say, right? Irina Parau, hello from Sibiu, Romania, to both of you. Anna, what a long hair. Anna, do you have a long hair?
Yeah, it's well.
I think all of them are long. You can't even tell, right? Because it's a little bit dark. So, yes, the beautiful Anna is with us today, and the beautiful Juliet is hiding as usual. It's right. So we've got the 3 ladies together. Famicom Mike, kind of like when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea. Yes, Famicom Mike is commenting on the imagery that God repeatedly uses to show us that he is one and the same God, right? Not like there were Marcion, an ancient heretic, one of these people who, it's common today as well to say, there's like this bad God in the Old Testament. In fact, Carl Jung, if you read what he wrote about the book of Job, he says really bad things about God. He's claiming that the Old Testament God has these evil streaks. It's seriously, the theology there. Even of course, he didn't claim to be a theologian, but to have that vision of God is quite, I think, problematic. But you do notice with psychologists sometimes, maybe because they're exposed, so much to people telling them a lot of their issues. It is a heavy cross to bear, and sometimes you notice a darkness to I don't know why it's that with psychotherapists and psychologists that happen to be male, less so the females, but I don't know. I have my set of crossing paths with people from this field. With Jordan Peterson, whom I find extremely articulate, it's not, professional of me or really all that relevant to say, but because I'm very open with you, my people, um, I do feel like, he has that certain, you know, um, heaviness, I think, certainly a sincerity and intensity, but also he really seems angry to me. Perhaps one can understand that. I don't know if that's the way he always was, but maybe that he was propelled to such fame and it really does undergo all of this, the whole culture in the internet. It's hard to not be overexposed and damaged, but he's really exposed because he's really big. He's all over YouTube. Um, he has just, it's really quite incredible, this, what has been called the Jordan Peterson phenomenon, and constantly under attack. So, I don't know what that's like. I know a little bit what it's like in a very small way. And it's not no picnic. So, but um, there's also definitely, very serious, a serious issue with uh, this approach towards God as simply a good idea. Um, anyway, or if a figment of our imagination, and it can subtly be absorbed. Also, if you read a lot of this, um, you know, I don't. It could, one can benefit as one wills to. So you can. I think many people can use something like this as a window, if one is not a believer or on the fence, to as a stepping stone into communion with God, right? But it could also happen differently, that one might start perceiving God as just a good idea, you know, and simply using the Judeo-Christian message, as 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 insofar as it is useful for us to get ahead in this life, somehow like that. I'm oversimplifying, but I'm just trying to indicate some of the extremes here. Okay, I know. I have to stop. Oh my goodness. How is it that I went to 47 minutes? Hello, Cat Can Do. Hello, Cat Can Do. She says, Sister Vassa and Anna, hello to you from a cooled down Houston. Oh, haven't talked about Houston yet. Talked about Phoenix. Ha ha ha. We talked about the bird. Not a city in Dallas. In Texas, sorry. A city in Dallas. All right, sister. Time for you to take a nap after, the long day. Deanna says, well, hello, Sister Vassa and Juliet. I'm a little late for this wonderful event from the frozen north of, wait for it, Embarrass, Minnesota. Juliet said it, embarrassed, before I did. And she can't see the screen. Hi to Anna as well, says Deanna. Hello, Deanna.
Hello,
wonderful. Wonderful to have you. See, Anna's just, she's happy to be there.
That's true.
And she's not even, she just likes to sit there and smile. Isn't it cute? It is. I'm delighted to have Anna with us. Gregor is with us. Good morning, Sister Vassa. Hi, Gregor. Ron McBride. I've been watching Jordan Peterson since before he became famous. He has wonderful lectures on YouTube from his University of Toronto classes. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those myself, Ron. I agree. I have both his books, says Ron McBride. They are very deep, and his series on Genesis is awesome. Yes, I intend to read that as well. I haven't gotten that. I know that's the older book. They have this one readily available because, well, I know one English bookstore here in Vienna. Anyway, that's where I got mine. John Laodicean. I used to have the exact same bird picture painted on the side of my van. Oh my goodness. I could just see that van, John Laodicean. Oh wow. What a coincidence or providence. Really, John Laodicean, what were you doing traveling around in that van? Oh my. I don't know why I think that looks very a little bit like racy, right? I didn't say like pimpy or anything, but it's a little bit like that. It sounds like that. Oh my goodness. Are we going to have to delete this video, Juliet, since she said something again? Ron McBride, John Laodicea, and I had a hippie van too. Okay. We're not going to ask what was depicted on yours, Ron McBride. I don't know, a mermaid or something. Ben Sirach, I've never really got into Jordan Peterson, just never attracted me. All right, fair enough. John Laodicea and Ron McBride, what did your van look like? Okay, now we want to get to the bottom of this. I find something off-putting about Mr. Peterson. There seems to be a kind of disdain for others. I don't know, yeah, all right. Well, these are, I know they're personal observations that aren't really,
Yeah.
he is a professional, right, in his field. And his claim isn't, I'm a nice guy, I'm this or that. He's like, I've worked on this is what I've observed, and these are also what the statistics are. And I think that very often when someone like that's, it is often misunderstood as a politician of sorts, when that's not what they're concerned with. He is thinking about psychology, and of course it has political implications, but he's like often saying, I'm not saying this, I have studied it, and this is what's observed by clinical psychologists. Say when he talks about, say a female trait, he says, this is what the majority will demonstrate. Doesn't mean there aren't exceptions, but, and oftentimes scholars or of various sorts, say philosophers that aren't interested in, the political wars, being fought, will be labeled somehow, in the political spectrum, but that's an oversimplification and also a distortion of what they actually are talking about. But to talk, you might say, okay, so it sounds like he talks about others with disdain, but I find it very presumptuous, to also to spout out evaluations of his work as if he's some kind of a dummy or some kind of a malevolent, evil guy somehow. One can learn something, from take something away. I mean, you don't need really to be interested in everything, so you might just not be interested in what he does. But as far as being someone knowledgeable, you have to, not deny that, all right, anyway. I promised to finish this soon. So, Ron is telling us what was painted on his van. It had abstract art painted in a very sporty way. It had headers and could set off alarms. Okay? All right, John Laodician is like, nice, Ron. Ron McBride, John Laodician, I don't get that impression from Jordan. He has a very sensitive heart. Yeah, again, we're getting very personal about Jordan Peterson here, but it's, yeah, I have been moved by him. He does seem very moved, by the personal feedback that he's getting from people, and he'll sometimes begin a little bit to cry, about how people say that he's changed their lives. And anyway, again, evaluating him as a human being, I don't think is, the point. But of course, of course we react to sort of the vibe that a person gives, right? It's fascinating, actually, to me, my friends out there, that, the way in the ancient world before the written word and the materials upon which one could write were very rare, and tradition was passed on primarily orally. We're talking a lot about this in our Church Fathers course. By the way, sign up to the Church Fathers audio podcast. You're missing a lot if you don't jump on board right now. All right, we're on our fourth talk. Go to patreon.com/Sister Vassa. Subscribe today, my friends. We also need your support, but you need to be well informed on the church fathers, okay? This is where you can do it easily. Anyway, what I was saying is that today the spoken word is again, becoming more important and more of the way people learn, through hearing than the written word. Increasingly, people are listening more than they are reading. That's very interesting. That's the way it was in the ancient world, which is why St. Paul says that faith comes from hearing, right? Not from seeing. So because we hear, the word spoken to us, and when you're responding more to living, people speaking and learning from them that way, it's interesting because that's the way people learned before, everybody could afford a manuscript that was a very valuable commodity or object. Lorraine is with us. Hi, Lorraine. Kavelkovich. I like Jordan Peterson, she says. All right. He has spoken about his own weaknesses and he stands up to his attackers really well. I will get his book now. All right. Yeah, it's a good read, Ron McBride, check out his lectures on YouTube too, Lorraine Kavelkovich. Yeah. Ben Sirach, I remember seeing a video by Protecting Veil about Jordan Peterson. I will have to check it out. John Laodicean, anyone know if the papers from the recent Orthodox conference in Oslo, wait a second, about sex, gender, etc., are available anywhere? Well, I took part in that conference, actually, John Laodicean. I was in Oslo, if you're talking about that one. Maybe, when was I in Oslo? Does anybody remember? Yeah, well, I've
Last year or
Anyway, but I was in Oslo for a conference about sex, gender. But I don't think the papers will be made available. I think it was agreed that was because of the, internet polarization and that whole culture, some meetings, of scholars on certain topics have decided to have, not, not disseminate their discussions. Ron McBride, Jonathan Pago, the icon carver, is good friends with Jordan too. Okay, yeah, I mean, if you've listened or read Jordan Peterson a bit, then he's actually very he has explicitly commented on Eastern Orthodoxy, very influenced and impressed by Solzhenitsyn, by Dostoevsky, by other Russian thinkers, like Russian neurologists that he mentions at his Oxford Q&A. So there's a connection somehow with Russian thinking and Jordan Peterson, which is interesting for me. I happen to be Russian, in case you didn't know. John Laodicean, is Mr. Peterson a member of a church? So, no, right? No. I certainly have, I would be surprised, but I don't think so. Oh man, Markianism is the most annoying heresy ever. Yeah, I know, right? Those Markianists are never any fun. Whatever. Denise Manos is saying, good morning, Juliet. I guess she forgot to say, hi, Denise. I didn't realize you were with us. Why didn't you speak up earlier? Did I miss your comment? Cherry Chapman is here. It's not the same without you, Cherry, so I'm glad you're here. Hi, Sister Vassa, and good to see Anna again.
Hi, Cherry.
Everybody's happy to see you, Anna. All right, I do have to stop. Oh my goodness, look how long this is. Juliet is in really despair. Witnessing the suffering in patients does bring a measure of heaviness, plus therapists have their issues too. Right. Okay, that's fair. Sibithera K. Good morning, Sister Vassa and Anna. Joining you late, but happy to see you this morning. You too, Sibithera K. Thanks for joining. Yvonne is with us too. Greetings from Luxembourg, dear Sister Vassa and Juliet. Christos se yavi. I don't know what the proper response is to that. Да, я думаю, что по-сербски. Is that in Serbian, Yvonne? Nice church fathers plug, said Ben Sirach. If you're late for the Church Fathers plug, everybody, sign up here on Patreon. Do not hesitate. Please don't hesitate no more. Do you know that song? It doesn't sound like that, everybody. It sounds a little bit like that. It was actually Anna singing. And she's like a ventriloquist, and I just moved my mouth. Okay, Julie Lucky. In an interview, someone asked Jordan why he didn't become Catholic. He responded, "Why don't you ask me why I don't become Orthodox?" Good burn for Jordan from Jordan Peterson, of course. Wait. All right, so I lost track here, everybody, of what you're talking about. This cannot wait. Right. This cannot wait, everybody. Do not hesitate. Do it now. Do it now. That's what Oprah says. Do it now. Just drop everything and subscribe to these audio podcasts. You're missing out all about really fascinating stuff about the ancient voices of the church, the Apostolic Fathers. That's the adventure we're on now. So, the other thing you need that you can't go on without is this little mini book, little attractive book that everybody now is abuzz about online and elsewhere in real life. The Lenten book, Book of Lenten Reflections. You don't want to be unprepared for Lent, okay? You have to start getting things together to embark on the adventure of Lent. All right, so one thing you want to get, Lent with Sister Vassa, just a brief daily reflection for every day of Lent.
We all have this one here.
Here, everybody
even
already
sister,
has it.
even sister
Every
was.
single person in this room owns this book. All right, everybody. Sorry, I do have to go. Bye, everybody. Lovely to see you. I love you, people. Thank you for your continuous support, okay? And I hope you're all well. And a blessed Theophany and Saints Athanasius and Kirill if you're new calendar. Tomorrow is St. John the Baptist for us older calendar people. So happy all of those feasts. Until next week, my friends, says Bob Krivanis. God bless and rock on, sister. All right, I'm going to rock on. And you too.
Goodbye, everyone.
Oh my goodness, we're over an hour. All right, bye, everybody. Thanks for showing up.